Here's Brody Brazil.
So I recently returned from covering Major League Baseball's 2022 winter meetings down in San Diego. And what an interesting scene, right? You have every franchise down there trying to better their roster, to better their team via free agents or trades or both. And obviously the whole Aaron Judge saga played out in real time in person. And you know what? The Oakland A's, they were down there to improve their current squad too, but they also have something else looming, something far more important to the future of their franchise, like where will they be playing in a handful of years? And so as I'm here at this MLB event, and as much as I talk about Howard Terminal and I covered this, a new thought emerged. Actually, a new question emerged. What exactly is Major League Baseball's role in all of this? In pushing Howard Terminal, in backing the A's, in providing some insight or influence or all of the above? Because as we go back in time, you realize it's been 4 years that the A's have been pushing on Howard Terminal. And a lot of progress has been made. Don't get me wrong. I understand there are some bottlenecks right now. They're being fought through. We're ultimately trying to get to that development agreement, which leads to a binding vote. But this has been going on for more than 4 years, and we've yet to hear much from Major League Baseball. I mean, occasionally a press conference from the commissioner, but he's often saying the same things over and over from a very high level, from like 35,000 feet. And when those of us on the ground hear it, maybe it's coming from a different national perspective, and the national media covers it a different way than we understand what's happening here locally. I'll circle back to that in just a second. You think about the primary parties who all have a hand on determining Howard Terminal or not for the Oakland A's. There's a lot of gatekeepers here, like the city of Oakland, like the A's themselves, like Alameda County, like the BCDC and the Port of Oakland and the State Lands Commission. And there are even some other entities here, which I'm not mentioning, but they all play a factor. There's all these groups, right? Am I missing somebody? Yeah, there's another big group involved with this project. What about Major League Baseball? And I'm asking this again as a question. I'm not suggesting that Rob Manfred, the commissioner, needs to come out and say something. He needs to back Oakland immediately, or the A's in Oakland immediately. I will say this also caught my attention recently in Tempe, Arizona. The hockey team there, the Coyotes, they were trying to secure a new arena deal in the city. And at the council meeting, NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman, as well as his number 2, Deputy Commissioner Bill Daley, they showed up in person to the city council meeting. Now, I understand we're not at that ultimate juncture yet. We're not in binding vote season entirely for the A's in Oakland. And maybe when that happens, maybe it will be the case that Rob Manfred or those from baseball show up and are actually present in pushing the project. Like as we can see it publicly. Don't get me wrong. I do know behind the scenes, he's been in talks with Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf. The two have discussed that. He's already said that he will be in touch with Mayor-elect Sheng Tao of Oakland. So I'm not saying that through back channels there's not communication and there's not partnership. I'm just saying publicly, will we see that? And maybe, again, it has not been the right time yet, the right opportunity yet. It's just that we haven't seen much yet. And I'll be honest, I tried to get the conversation going. Again, I feel like a lot of times Commissioner Manfred says the same things over and over, talks from 35,000 feet. You know, the project is behind. We're way past a deadline. The Coliseum needs replacing. This situation has to get fixed. Yes, we know all that. So I tried to have a conversation. I tried to arrange a 10-minute interview. That was my request here. You can see the response email from Major League Baseball. Good morning. Thank you for contacting Major League Baseball. Commissioner Manfred will be unavailable. Denied, Brazil. Again, I was just trying to have this conversation one-on-one on camera, about 10 minutes. I wanted to ask some what I thought were thoughtful, pointed, and insightful questions that would generate informational answers to tell us where baseball really is on this. How high of a priority is getting Oakland squared away as opposed to everything else that baseball's dealing with? And would we see the commissioner's office or baseball as a league and a business back what the A's are pushing for at Howard Terminal? Maybe I'll try again. Maybe I'll have this opportunity. Maybe it just was a tight weekend. But I tried. Commissioner Manfred did speak to the national media, but I tried to schedule this conversation from the regional angle. And we think about Major League Baseball factors here. Again, I don't know what their right move and strategy is. I can't speak for them. I'm not suggesting for them. I'm wondering about them. Here's some things I do know. They do have the desire to expand probably 2 more franchises, but they can't do any of that reasonably until Oakland and Tampa Bay are resolved, right? The A's and Rays need to have their futures be permanent so then baseball can add a franchise or 2. And obviously my personal connections with Dave Stewart, that's not part of our conversation, but this is what I can see plain as day, right? That baseball needs to have these 2 teams done before they, in my opinion, before they for sure go to Nashville, and possibly with the A's hopefully staying in Oakland, maybe Las Vegas is an expansion territory for Major League Baseball. But they can't move forward on anything else. There is the holdup here on what they want to do because of Oakland and Tampa. I also understand that Major League Baseball, right, doesn't want to show up and burn bridges in Oakland, or they don't want to say the absolute wrong thing, offend Oakland, or Las Vegas for that matter. They don't know the future of the A's. My last point is here that Major League Baseball represents its teams and their interests. They don't stray from what the team is trying to do. They are partners directly with all of their major league teams. So they don't want to make it a bad situation if the A's stay. Ultimately, if they're in Las Vegas, they don't want to burn bridges in either place. I fully respect, again, what baseball is trying to do here, trying to back their team. It's just that my question is at what point do you show your cards? Do you show up? Do you actually use some of your influence in the process? And one thing that I heard Commissioner Manfred say that totally caught my ear, by the way, this next section is what would help in this process. Like, what do we want baseball to show up and do? Like, he made a pretty big promise to Baltimore, saying, quote, "As long as I have this job, I think you can count on the fact that the Orioles are going to be in Baltimore." There is some turbulence with Baltimore's ownership group, and because of that, a little bit of uncertainty about the future and the location of their franchise moving forward. But I mean, just like, and I realize Commissioner Manfred cannot say that right now about Oakland because the A's are negotiating with the city. The city is negotiating with the A's. It's the last thing you want to do and say, I guarantee they'll be there. So good luck, trying to structure out your deal at this point. That might actually go against the whole project, and I don't want that. But if I did hear that, and if any one of you did hear that, that would ease your feelings on all of this. It might make the negotiations far more difficult and maybe even less possible. But obviously, it's the double-edged sword here because it would make you comfortable, but it would do all the wrong things behind the scenes. So I'm saying what would help. I want to be clear about this. That type of promise, I would never expect it to come, but it's interesting it's been said about somewhere else. How about a presence? And again, it's very possible that the appropriate time has not yet arrived. The commissioner and baseball don't feel it's the right opportunity to show up to the Oakland City Council meeting or to, they're not going to go to a BCDC meeting, I don't think, but ultimately when there is probably that last final vote that gets things assured, maybe that will be the opportunity. Maybe that's when they're saving it, right? They're saving their momentum for a point that they really think that they'll need it. And then lastly here, maybe baseball beyond, showing up in a presence, maybe it could offer some perks like Commissioner Gary Bettman did in Tempe with the Coyotes saying, hey, you know what? We're going to bring a draft down here someday. We're going to bring the All-Star game. We're going to bring other NHL events. Baseball could do the same thing. We're going to bring this, and this to the city of Oakland. So when you get this done as part of this deal to sweeten it, I'm going to throw in these perks. That's probably the most realistic of all the things I'm mentioning here, to be quite honest. So it just goes back to the main question. What exactly is Major League Baseball's role in Howard Terminal? They're in an interesting spot. They are flying well above the radar, right? I don't know that they're in the radar or below the radar. They're not below it. They might be just flat out above the radar. And anytime you hear the commissioner say something that he's always said, and the quotes go national and it gets passed around, and all of a sudden there's inherent pessimism about his comments. And I seeing it here at the ground level, I see some progress. I see some things happening. I see constant little things going in the right direction, whether it was the certification of the EIR, whether it was port priority use removal from that piece of land right there, 55 acres at Howard Terminal. I see those types of things in a positive direction. And then obviously I understand the commissioner wants to get the ball moving, wants to get things rolling. So he's trying to, foot on the gas pedal a little bit. But then it just comes across occasionally through the national media the wrong way because the national media, are not up to speed necessarily on Howard Terminal at all. So I think it's a fair question. I don't know the answer. What exactly is Major League Baseball's role with Howard Terminal?